Poilievre is supposed to be the pro-business guy. Poilievre is supposed to be the guy saying to business, based on the reputation of political parties, business, we've got your back. Instead, he's telling corporate Canada to fire their lobbyists. He's essentially saying that, in a way, business doesn't have an audience with him and won't if and when he's prime minister. How did it land with you?
Well, I mean, the last part of your statement there is one important thing. When he, forms government, we don't know if he's going to form government. That's a long way out, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is commentary from someone who's elected right now, and obviously, typically people would perceive that the Conservative movement would be more aligned on business policies than other parties, but that's not always the case. Historically, we were pretty surprised. It unfortunately paints chambers and advocates in general with a pretty broad brush, and we're wondering, is that message really what was intended, or maybe there's some other considerations that Mr. Poilievre's looking to achieve with making a statement like this? At the end of the day, at least certainly here in Alberta, our chamber network are huge advocates for business and their communities and the value of business, and we take a lot of action. And if you get into the article, you can see some of those very specific, critiques that Mr. Poilievre levies against different advocacy groups. And here in Alberta, you just have to think about our network's vote prosperity campaigns in the last two provincial elections. Like, that was getting the message and importance of business out into communities, engaging candidates about the value of business and why that matters to everybody in the province.
For people that haven't heard it, I want to read some of this because it's wild. This is Pierre Poilievre writing this. Okay, so he submits this opinion piece to the National Post. They obviously publish it. So writes the leader of the official opposition, quote, "Recently, the Business Council of Alberta held a big event to suck up to the federal Liberals who have killed two major pipelines, violated the Constitution with their anti-resource law C-69, imposed a hated carbon tax on small business with no rebates for over 5 years now." Obviously, that's changing with the current budget. But he goes on to say all Alberta businesses should cancel their memberships and stop giving money to the Business Council. Small business should stop supporting the CFIB, the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. This is where I went, whoa. He goes on to say sucking up to anti-resource, high-tax, big government politicians has and will bring more anti-resource, high-tax, big government policies. Goes on, Pierre Poilievre, at the most, in the National Post, he writes, "The Chamber of Commerce, Business Council, and CFIB hold pointless luncheons and meetings and write op-eds or record interviews that almost no one sees. As leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, I refuse to meet the aforementioned groups. They tell me what I already know." I feel like I have, at minimum, 100 personal friends that are proud members of the Alberta Chambers of Commerce, and I can't imagine any one of them being excited about this.
It was an unfortunate piece.
Yeah.
I think that it might have some implications for relationships. Chamber networks work very, very hard.
That's what I'm wondering about. Like, politically, to me, it doesn't make sense for him to write this.
I wouldn't want to speculate on the deep politics and motivations for writing this piece. I think that maybe some of the broader implications weren't considered as much as they perhaps should have been. I know here, as I said before, here in Alberta, our chamber network works very, very hard on behalf of business to work with government, those who are elected, and actually making policy changes to try and advance business interests. And we work really hard to communicate and engage the public with the value of business and why that matters to us all.
It's obvious that you're in the relationship building and relationship maintenance business by how you're approaching and answering this question. If I'm a member of a Chamber of Commerce, I'm going, what the hell? Like, I understand if Pierre Poilievre says, if you're part of a group that's chaining yourself to old growth trees, or if you're part of a group that's blocking railways, you're not going to get meetings with me. To say it about Chambers of Commerce, I just went, geez.